On this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, we talk about the state of crowdfunding and what tabletop analytics can teach us. We look at charts and graphs and discuss numbers about what the industry is doing, how well it is faring, and as a first-time creator, you might actually really love some of the numbers that we are revealed by the data. We discuss Kickstarter versus GameFound and BackerKit and what a first-time creator should use, as well as just every creator in general. We really do a deep dive into the numbers. Let's get into it.
Game begin.
Let's go.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his marketing level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? I must be using Crowdfunding Nerds.
Amazing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I'm your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined not by Sean nor by Rick. Sean actually had a brand new baby,
Nice.
Tabitha, baby number 4. So he is not on this podcast for that reason. So congratulations to Sean. In Sean's place, I have Konstantinos Manos, a big friend of the podcast and the Crowdfunding Nerds. He runs Vesuvius Media and Hive Interactive, which is a pledge management system, and just is in general an extraordinary human being in the realm of tabletop gaming. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much for your kind words. You are overselling me, but okay.
Trust me, like with what you did on our first Deliverance Kickstarter, I don't think it's possible to oversell you. You are like the goose that laid the golden egg. Like you are at least a golden egg quality, very, very precious. So
we've lost so much money learning. So at some point we had to actually learn.
Yeah. So you stopped me from losing a lot of money because you've probably lost a lot of money doing this thing, the mistakes that I was about to make, and you prevented me from making those mistakes. So yeah, I would, I mean, the money I would pay you for consulting is like the best money ever spent. So, so anyway, the topic for the episode is really more of like a state of crowdfunding. We want to look back and look forward, figure out kind of where things are at. I constantly am asked questions about GameFound versus Kickstarter versus BackerKit. I was just asked yesterday on a show by a well-known professional in the industry, which one do I prefer and why? And that I love to be a friend to all. I just think that our people need information. They need unfettered. Everybody has a bias, but as with our biases admitted, I chose Kickstarter for both of my projects, including the one that's live right now. And so I have a bias toward Kickstarter, you might say, but there's a reason that I decided to choose Kickstarter. When push comes to shove and I have to put my money where my mouth is, that's what I ended up choosing. And so we're going to talk about some of those things as to why, what projects would be a good fit on Kickstarter, what projects would be a good fit on GameFound or BackerKit, and what the numbers are like behind the scenes. And so one of the things that Konstantinos does is he runs a website called Tabletop Analytics, which just track all the numbers on Kickstarter in various categories. So we wanted to go over some actual numbers.
To be specific.
Yes. We don't care about the coolest pants.
TikTok for tabletop projects only.
Yes. So, and some of the things that you can do with tabletop analytics are pretty fantastic. Like, for example, one of the things that I have been following closely is all the graphs from my first Kickstarter campaign. I'm able to easily compare what my current Kickstarter is doing, and I'm able to see the differences. And I can see, if the numbers hold true, this is what we're going to make. But that was true on the first Kickstarter, and here's where things are going differently. And so it's been very fantastic.
You can use other similar projects. Like for us, when we run a campaign that doesn't match any of our previous projects, then we try to find other competitors or other projects that look similar like ours, and we try to compare with their numbers and see if we're doing as well, if we're doing worse, and maybe try to figure out something different.
Yeah,
cool,
which is pretty fantastic. I like it's very interesting because if I look at my current project, I have, in fact, if you wanted to, you could actually pull it up for and show everybody. Here, I can give you the link. So we do have a on YouTube, we're gonna actually be screen sharing, and Konstantinos is going to be showing numbers and data, and so some of this is pretty fascinating. And Konstantinos, let's get your biases out of the way right away.
Yes.
Are you a huge, super duper diehard fan of GameFound?
GameFound, definitely not. Look, I'm gonna be frank with you. There is one crowdfunding platform out there, and that's Kickstarter. Full stop. There are two wannabe crowdfunding platforms right now for the game tabletop category, and that's BackerKit and GameFound. Uh, Good. It's nice to have dreams, but I'm like, they are trying to become a crowdfunding organic platform for this category. They are not there yet. My problem is that they're also, both of them, misrepresenting their data, their information. I am a math guy. I have a PhD in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
I like my statistics. I like to drill down to numbers, and I like to have a good and crystal clear explanations and not market definitions and things that can be interpreted in multiple ways. So
Yep.
you are right about what you're advertising, but you know that it's going to perceived and translated in a different way from the recipient of that info. So,
Right.
for example, when I come and tell you, look, I have my website has 1.8 million page views per day, and you do not ask. You're doing two things. You are a pledge manager and you're a crowdfunding platform. You are two different things. The pledge manager people are coming from Kickstarter. So they are not organic. They are not people actively looking to back another project. But you're using one number saying, these are my millions of views. And you do not clarify whether this is organic. Is this a number where people are coming to your first page, pressing a 5, trying to find something new to back, which is what Kickstarter has? Or is it just is it real? It is a real number. If you open Google Analytics, they have that page views. But if 95% of that is people that are coming to complete their pledge manager and go, then to me it's false advertising.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, this is how big we are, this is how many backers you have. No. Define. You have that many backers as pledge manager. How many do you have as organic? And that's the pitfall that most, especially new creators, fall into. And if you try to use these crowdfunding platforms without a community, without having built something to start organically, and in which case you are essentially giving them your database and them your following for free, I might add. Actually, you're paying them to give it your database for free. You're getting in return a promise that maybe some of the 5% organic, maybe, or I'm going to do a cross promotion email, maybe something you get for free.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the traffic that they get in their main page is from advertising.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to GameFound for a project, not because I go to GameFound every day or every other day, or I follow KickTrack, or I follow Tabletop Analytics, because nobody follows these things in GameFound or BackerKit, but because I saw a Facebook ad.
Mm-hmm.
So if I will go to that platform as a Facebook ad, does this platform give me as a creator an advantage?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer currently is not more than what Kickstarter gives me, because Kickstarter will give me a shot, will bring me in a community. That's the difference. Kickstarter has a community. It has always been a community. It will always be a community. It builds a community of people that look to crowdfund things. It is not a platform for you to crowdfund. Subtle difference, huge in its core values, right? So I have invested thousands of dollars, hundreds of hours working and building a community in Kickstarter. There is no reason for me to go to any of the other platforms.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting because if you look at so like for example, I can let's see. Let me actually pull some screens for people, and that way they can see kind of what I'm looking at. So if I were to showcase Here we go. I should have had this set up.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, so you're looking at 335,000 funded, right?
Yes, that's your Deliverance, the new expansion. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when you look at this, you know, our very first crowdfunding episode ever, or crowdfunding nerds episode that we ever did, was actually a deep dive into the referral metrics of Kickstarter. And right now you can see Kickstarter is claiming credit for 49% of our $335,000. And they're saying, like, you know, things like search. When somebody searches for Deliverance on Kickstarter, then that's 100% their credit. I actually say this is 100% the creator's credit. You know, you've got ads, or you've got other
They
generators, you
already
know.
know, and then they end up to you.
Right.
Yes.
But you look at something like Advanced Discovery, that is entirely Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And for us, we've got 143 people discover us over time, and if they've pledged almost $22,500. Things like internal Kickstarter's credit, they take credit for the push notification, which I actually balance between Kickstarter and the creator, because, you know, I fueled a lot of those people that were following before, but the push notification is Kickstarter's functionality, so that's a huge deal, right? And
Yes.
but things like the recommendations home, the Kickstarter homepage, those are hey, there's Hive, you know, you sent out that email blast, but there are, you know, a bunch of recommendations for people that discover. So Kickstarter, what we found was that Kickstarter gives you, if you bring 6 backers, at the time we would generally say Kickstarter brought 4. Now I think you have to bring like 7 backers, and Kickstarter will bring you 2 to 3. And, you know, for every roughly 7 backers, let's say Kickstarter brings you 2 to 3. Which
Depends
means
also on how well your project is doing.
that's
Unfortunately,
correct.
that's true in all platforms. The better your project performs, the
Mhm.
more it extrapolates. Now, imagine the following: when I back a project, let's say I back Deliverance
Mhm.
with my account in Kickstarter, then all
Mhm.
the people that follow me will get a notification say, "Oh, Konstantinos just backed Deliverance."
Yes.
So the more people back you, the more, and the Kickstarter notifies them
Mhm.
either with a push, either with an email. If multiple people back the project that are my friends in Kickstarter, I will
Mhm.
get a notification from Kickstarter saying, "Look, these people backed this project. Maybe you are interested as well."
Mhm.
So it creates a snowball effect the more people you bring in. But to me,
Yes.
that also means that it has a better ability to amplify
Mhm.
this effect that your project has, uh, and that's,
Yeah.
I don't think that this cannot be done in these new platforms that do not yet have the essence of community in them embedded.
Yep. Yeah, so I find it to be very curious. Also, they have advanced analytics, which is a new thing,
Yes,
which I really liked. We kind of
and
went over this on a previous podcast.
download the data because as soon as the project finishes, you lose
Yep.
all access to this.
Yes, so there's the download button. You
Yes,
can do that. I find it really curious to see things like, let's see, where is the statistic? 1,492 new to you backers. So 28% of the people who backed my first project are backing this one.
yes.
That type of information is very useful. You know, and how many people jump in after I put out an update on my old project. This number used to be like 16% and has increased as I have sent emails to my people and updates on my old project and whatnot. But
That
it's
also is a testament that, like, if you already have a community
mhm,
and you have already built following in Kickstarter,
yeah,
makes zero sense to leave the Kickstarter platform.
right.
They
So
do the
this is
community building right. So, like, Call Mini, for example, when
mhm,
they decided to go to GameFound and they start from scratch building everything again.
yep.
They are just losing millions of dollars right now. Millions.
One of the assumptions that a lot of creators make is that my audience will follow me from Kickstarter to GameFound. And what I actually was shocked to learn for myself was I was actually very surprised to learn only 28% of the backers in my first campaign returned for an expansion, right? And I thought, you know, of course, that's a lot of hardcore fans. We sold 5,000 games, and if and you have a lot of people that backed for the expansion, I think that there's something to be said for the economy and the inflation and whatnot. People not having as much disposable income. And so I do have some fans that are like, I would really love to back. Can I back for $1? Or maybe can I purchase this later? But overall, 28%, and that might increase to 50% by the end of the campaign. I don't know. The push notification, final 48 hours. We still have 8 days to go in
I
the
believe that you are already way too high.
yeah.
From 30,
Well,
35, for like
I
50 is huge. Like
yeah,
it's highly successful
yeah,
game to go to 50% return.
yeah.
You don't
I can
see that
also show
easy.
you. Let
Uh,
me show you
that many like
this. We have
yeah.
right now a 27% conversion
The
rate in our
highest we have
followers.
seen in conversion rates is around 48, 50%.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's from games that have built a very dedicated
Yep.
community, extremely tight BGG first handle top games, something like that.
Yep.
So your numbers right now look already really good.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I noticed at this time in our last campaign, our conversion rate was something like 16 to 18%.
cool.
And in our final numbers, we had a 28% conversion rate. It was
Mm.
like roughly 1,177 conversions, I think it was,
Mhm.
4,000 and something followers. And we already have 27%. And last time we had an increase in conversion rate of like between 10 and 12% in the final 48 hours,
Yes, because
which,
there are many people that are following and are waiting to back at the last moment, and
right.
that is all things that you would probably lose if you were
Mhm.
not in Kickstarter.
And that's kind of one thing that scares me. Like if you look at our trend, this is a tabletop analytics comparison report that I did for Deliverance. Actually, you did that for me, and you were like, "Hey, you can do this." I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." You can see how much was pledged per day, and you can see the funding for my first campaign is in blue, which it has a very normal curve. It's like a big increase early, a fall off, and then a very smooth, stable increase with a little bump like right around day 21, and finally a big finish at the very end. And you can look at the difference between my first, so the curves follow each other for the first 5 days, and then something happened on day 6, which was like a really huge increase that just started to grow us. Something else happened on day 10, which caused us to increase. And so something else happened on day 16, which was started a decently large increase. And so there are people that are jumping in very suddenly from things. But the amount pledged per day generally, like if I look at like what happened on day 16 in my first campaign, we raised $870. And I mean, the mid campaign is tough, right? Day 16, right in the middle. But then this campaign, we raised 6,640. The graphs are really close to each other because of the day one being so large,
So
and
big, yes.
kind of minimizing the rest of the numbers. But that is 10 times almost. Well, I guess 8 times what we made before,
But
and
keep in mind that you might not have as a big of a spike by the end of it.
it's
Because it's an
possible.
expansion,
Yes.
because you are now hitting the same people, you're
Hmm.
converting them earlier. The
Yep.
difference with the first campaign for a project is that people are waiting to see what's going to happen at the end. When
Hmm.
you're doing an expansion, they already like the game. It is easier for them to actually jump on it.
Yep.
You will have the people that have not jumped in the first campaign, and these are the ones that are going to decide whether
Yep.
they want to pay double the price because they will get now expansion and main game at the last 48 hours.
Right.
Like,
And actually, we've had
it's
a
very
lot of
difficult
people
to have.
jump in.
Yes, it's very difficult to have people that's going to say, do I
Hmm.
want this expansion or not? I will decide in the 48 hours. They
Right.
already know the game. They already know, they have seen the value.
Hmm.
So we see that in the last 48 hours for expansions, we
Hmm.
don't have that huge spike.
Hmm.
If you have done correctly pre-campaign and during campaign notifications, like if you
Yep.
do irregular updates to your previous campaign, if you do any mailing list notifying them, then you usually convert them earlier and not in the last 48 hours.
Yeah. And so that's something I've been finding
Because
is
you know them. That's the
right.
difference with the first campaign. Well, you don't know the backers. Only
Mm-hmm.
Kickstarter knows them. So
Yep.
only Kickstarter can notify them trying to convert them. Whereas
Yep.
in this campaign, from those 4,500 followers, probably half of them or more of half of them, you already know them. So
Yep.
you can potentially reach out to them with other means from other ways.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that if we had our spike, so what we're hoping for is that we get, if our conversion rate holds similar to last time, we had about 10% of people jumped in, our conversion increased by about 10% at the last 48 hours. And that would be about 460 backers at this time, which
I
would be
think
really
that
fantastic.
a five is more realistic.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and I'm really curious to see what the numbers are going to be like at that time. But I thought it was worth sharing, And our last campaign, we had 134 backers, 201, and 239. So we had over 500 backers convert. It was like almost, I mean, like 560, 574 backers. Or 584 backers in the last 48 hours. So it's a very large spike. And so we'll see how it goes, but I'm hopeful, and it's just really interesting to see the data from tabletop analytics. So 5% is more realistic. So now all of the data on tabletop analytics, there's so much that's really fantastic that you can of course use on your own projects, but I'm curious as to your opinion about the general state of Kickstarter and where it was. So there's this so Alex Radcliffe actually is, on a board game or a Board Game Co. He talked about he put out a video talking about the top projects in 2023 and the money that they made in the tabletop, specifically the board game category. Compared to 2024, which granted is not finished yet. October is a huge month, and November, December is like Awaken Realms month. So, you've got very large campaigns that typically hit. But I was curious to as to your opinion on where we're at in general. Like, are there more people backing? Are they spending less money? Are they what can we learn from tabletop analytics about
So
this stuff?
our perception when we were looking for the tabletop category of Kickstarter, because we made a mistake at the beginning and we're looking as the data as a whole, and we were thinking, oh, things are not looking good. It seems that the average pledge is going down. The money are being spent are different. Seems like we have a huge competition, so many thousands and thousands of projects. So we're competing, and then we realized because we thought that things were growing at the same rate. So the numbers that we were seeing several years ago would stay pretty much the same. But then we decided to put some extra filters in tabletop analytics and distinguish projects between RPGs, accessories, which are 3D printed STL files, tabletop, and other. Other are like, for example, Tom Vassel's or Marvel's Meeple when they do a crowdfunding for their YouTube channel. So that would be another category. The other category is pretty much exactly the same. So we haven't seen any spikes there. But RPG and STL files in the past years after the pandemic, they have started going up by a lot. Also, Kickstarter has a very specific outreach program, and they do try to attract more RPG creators, and it has been working for that community a lot. So we didn't realize how much until we split the data, and then some very interesting results came about. Where should I share screen? I will share screen.
Yeah, go ahead, share the
I
screen.
think that would
Talk
be interesting. Yes.
talk listeners to the charts. If you
Yes.
guys want to actually watch this stuff, you can do it on our YouTube channel, Crowdfunding Nerds YouTube channel.
Yes. So that would be like the trend for the entire tabletop category again. in Kickstarter. You see that it has been growing steadily. This is the last year is not yet done. So what we were seeing is that the
So to
total
clarify,
amount,
you've got the yellow
yes, the
line
yellow
is live
line is the
projects,
number of projects, which
and then
steadily
the
goes up,
blue
and the
is the
blue
amount
is
of
the
money
amount.
pledged.
We don't
Okay.
necessarily stick to the amount as much because the amount is greatly affected by like a cool mini project that's gonna make millions based on multiple smaller or regular creators. But it is we have to notice that during the pandemic years 2021, we saw a huge spike, which then afterwards started normalizing. But if you
Yep.
see like from 2019 up to 2022, 23, we're still growing up. But
And another thing about that is, just to clarify, is GameFound's numbers, they are not included in this data. Is that
no,
correct?
they are not. They are not.
And so you have Awaken Realms that moved off, I would say around 2020, 2021.
2020, I think, was the last campaign that they ran.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I remember it was like last year GameFound pulled like $50 million or something. So in 2023.
Yes. Also, you cannot compare GameFound numbers. That's another mistake many young creators do. You cannot compare GameFound numbers that you see in their website with Kickstarter numbers because GameFound has displays just like BackerKit displays full pledge management numbers. That also includes shipping and taxes. This is a huge uptick in numbers. Huge. So when you don't include shipping and taxes into a project, and then you, as a pledge manager, you do include them, that doesn't give you the actual value of how many backers you brought, how much money you made, because shipping and taxes is not your money. So when you see a project in GameFound that says $100 million, if that includes 30% shipping, that's 70 million. So if you want to, and if it includes 20% taxes for European, maybe that's another $5 million in there. So if you're trying to compare how a company is doing before and after, you need to remove those numbers and then compare apples to apples. Now, the problem we were seeing here is that, for example, per project, the average pledge started dropping significantly in 22, 23. So when you had like $74,000 per project and then you suddenly drop to 45, that is a huge hit because then you have to understand like, oh, if on average I can make $80,000, then I can create a small project X with some miniatures and then it can get funded. But then if that money drops by half, then what's happening? So what we ended up doing there is that we changed and we're trying to see the numbers. Oops, sorry. I lost my session. Thing. There it is. So we said, okay, let's see what RPG did in this category. And then suddenly we see that after the pandemic, the number of projects and the amount of money that people spend on Kickstarter on RPG significantly raised. And when we checked the accessories, which is STL files, terrains, either already printed or 3D printed, which is the new thing that is going around. Tables. When Broomwood does a campaign, they do some $1 million. When Dragon's Forge, Dragon's Forge, yes,
Dwarven Forge.
Dwarven Forge. Yes, they're awesome terrains and stuff that they're not 3D printed, but they are extremely expensive. So they also have some millions. And you can see that these also went up after 2021, the number of projects. So going back to tabletop, now the image changes. First of all, we don't have such huge of a drop from 85,000 per project to 45, which is almost 50% drop. But we see that during the pandemic, we were at 136. Before we were 120. Last year was 103, which makes sense if you account for the fact that some of the established creators that do the most expensive projects have moved also to GameFound. So you lose that top tier, but that doesn't affect the rest of us. We're the new creators.
Like Chip Theory Games and Simon, Cool
Simon
Mini or
is
not
yet accounted because Simon moved in 2024. So
Okay.
we're gonna see that in 2024. Like
Yeah.
you do
But then
already see that
Awaken Realms
so
did
far.
Nemesis
Yes.
Retaliation, which raised like 12 million or something at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So what we are seeing right now is that first of all, the number of projects by new creators is around 500, has been around 500, pretty much from 2017 and up, with the
Yeah.
exception of 2020, which was pandemic, which
Yep.
they
It's
did
like everyone's sitting at
614.
home. What do
Yes,
I do?
exactly. The number of new projects has been around 1100 from 2018. They did 1200 in the pandemic, but as you can see, 1100, 1150,
Very
1180,
consistent. Yeah.
1200 in 2023. So what do we see? We see that in Kickstarter, we have reached an upper balanced limit, let's say,
Mhm.
of amount of projects and amount of money being raised. Uh, and we can also assume that the reason we see like a flat line right now in Kickstarter is because we also have attrition from projects that are living and they're running in BackerKit or they're running in GameFound.
Right.
So as an industry, we still go up in
Mhm.
the same rate, but on Kickstarter, we're reaching a flat upper ceiling.
Right.
Now, that
Yeah, you
upper
had
ceiling shows that the competition we had in Kickstarter 5, 6 years ago with today, it's the same.
yeah,
The
you know
amount of
what I find
money,
really interesting
yeah,
about
the
this
amount of
chart?
money people were pledging is about the same.
Yeah.
So when I hear things like inflation or these are excuses we're trying to find out there.
Mhm. Mhm.
What has also changed in the industry is that we do have more options. The amount of projects is the same on Kickstarter, but now I've been in Essen last week. Like if you come in there, there are thousands of titles to look for. You're not only competing with the new projects, but you're also competing with the successful projects of last year and the year before. When
Yep.
we reach the point where we have 1,000 projects per year, and you have that for 5, 6 years, there are some really good projects from 2018, 19, 20 that you haven't yet played. You haven't yet, and they are still coming back and reprinting. So, although it seems like we reached an upper bound of about 1,100 new projects per year, as a gamer or as a newcomer here in the tabletop category, or a board gamer, then you are faced not only with the new things, but with the cool things that are already in the industry from the years before. So I believe that
Right.
if something is happening here, is more of the fact that there is more choice. The hobby has grown by a lot. There's a shift because of the pandemic. We have seen more families, more couples playing, more women being introduced to the hobby.
Mhm.
It has been known to be a man, a man only type of hobby, or
Mhm.
we had the exceptions of the women, but because of the pandemic, now we had to play, we had to involve more people, more diverse uh, groups, and also not only hardcore. Like that's why you see like more casual games. Not
Yep.
everybody wants to play. Let's go through the rules for 2 hours and
Mhm.
then play another 3 hours. Yes, of course, these games are still thriving, but the mass market has opened up more opportunities. That's the way we see it. If you can see the average pledge, it actually has grown. It's at 95, 94. So people are spending more per project than they have been
Yep.
spending 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was unfortunately a sad uh, realization where the numbers we were seeing before were like, okay, inflation, oh, people are not spending, everything is dropping. No, actually, it's not because RPG and
Yep.
STL files tend to be lower value projects.
Mhm.
And that's why you were seeing the numbers as a whole dropping. But when you are looking at tabletop only,
Yep.
then things are, this
Very
tells a very
consistent.
different story. Yes.
There was a Embracer. I'm reminded of Embracer Group. They did a report. Embracer Group owns Asmodee. They are one of the large. They're based out of Sweden. They run movies and video games, and then they do tabletop and the and they've seen losses, like massive losses in movies. They've seen like 50% decrease in movies. They've seen like 35% down in, or 34% down in video games. And tabletop, I think it had like a 1% increase or 1% decrease or something like that. It's their most consistent.
The difference is that the way I also see it, like you can see behind me, like
Yeah.
I'm a collector. I feel this is an asset.
Yeah.
When I go to a movie, I watch it, I forgot it, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get a board game, you are left with something tangible you can touch in your bookshelf, in your game book, in your game shelf, right? So, and it has a resale value. Again, if it is a good game, it's gonna be a good game 5 years from now.
Right.
Whereas a movie, a song, or whatever else, it changes. It's a different thing. Now, the other thing that I would like also to stress here is that in we have added another metric into Kickstarter and into our tabletop analytics Kickstarter
this is
data.
very fascinating, by the way.
So it shows the amount pledged to new creators.
New creators,
and that's where I would. That's what gives me more grounds to say you should not go to these GameFound and BackerKit platforms. They will have to figure out a way to grow and maybe
as a first-time creator.
As a first-time creator, it looks like, and now 20% on average in the past, from 2017 and after, 20% of the funding that goes to the tabletop category went to first-time creators. And now when it's a Kickstarter first-time creator, it's a brand new creator. So when it's 20%, that's about $28 million. If you can see, 26 to 28 million every year.
The drop last year was under $20 million new creators.
Yes, it's about 16 last year.
Yep.
I'm guessing now what's happening here is that we have also BackerKit and GameFound chipping into those new creators.
Yep.
And Tabletop Analytics tracks successful projects.
Yeah.
So, and you can see that in 2024, it's now to 31 because we lost Cool Mini.
Yep.
And that takes a big chunk of money. So from the top category. Yeah. So the rest now, it shows that there are even more money that goes percentage-wise. But the number is 26 still. The reason
and we still have a quarter of the year to go.
Because some big creators run campaigns in GameFound. And now that's my next problem is when I go to GameFound and I look at the projects, I can see that established creators can do 100,000, $1 million here for Mood Publishing, Chip Theory Games, 180, 160. And then every other small creator, it's either struggling or completely failing. So my problem here is that if you're not an established creator, you will fail in another platform. Whereas if you're an established creator, you will just give them your database for free. If you are not an established creator coming to Kickstarter community, you have a chance to get some of those $28 million that are going to be invested in new projects on Kickstarter.
Yeah, so I mean, if this number holds true, so amount pledged to new creators right now is at almost $27 million in 2024. It's
going to be 28 by the end of the year.
Yeah,
because
or maybe even
creators
higher.
Also, it is not easy to have the new exploding kittens where they come, they didn't even know, and they did $8 million in Kickstarter. So it is more rare to see a new creator breaking the bank immediately. Yeah. So this will go to around 28 million, which shows that, and that's again only tabletop. So when you're competing as a new creator, this is what you're competing for, which is a good number to be competing for. Right.
And right now, almost a third of the money raised on Kickstarter's tabletop category has gone. And remember, this excludes RPGs, this excludes accessories and whatnot.
This is only tabletop projects.
Like
if you want to see a similar thing in RPG, then you're gonna see again.
Yeah.
Similar trend. Now the RPG category, we can't go to before 5 years because it was way smaller and the data. Is not concise, but in the last 4 or 5 years, you can see that it's been growing. And this year, the number is going to be greatly skewed because Kazmir, because when you have one top project doing 14 millions, taking like 1/3 of the total amount raised, then the numbers immediately are affected, right?
Yes.
So yes, and they were a repeat creator because they have done the tabletop projects before, and that's why you see 14% this year in new creators. If we delete that Kazmir, it's gonna go back again to the 25-27% that's usual for
Yep.
RPG. So that's what we see from our end, is that there is a really good amount of investment in new creators, and that to us shows the existence of a community
Mm-hmm.
that is really supporting projects
Yep.
in Kickstarter. Well, you don't see that. What you see in the other crowdfunding platforms, BackerKit and GameFound right now, is that the existing creators bring their own people. They try to do marketing on Facebook, but there's not an active community in there investing money to small projects just for the sake of investing. Okay.
Yeah. That's very interesting because I originally made the assumption that Kickstarter's organic traffic was 90% generated, and I'm just throwing out numbers that I made up at the time. 90% generated by companies that were established that had an email list that sent them over to Kickstarter whenever they launched a project. And when those people would go, they would back a project, but they would also look at what else is going on. And that's where all the activity was coming from. And over time, and that was, I want to say, through 4 years ago, that I had made that assumption. And then over time, what I've seen is projects that have the project we love tag, projects that do well, that surprise people, they thrive best on Kickstarter. Now, when projects are already newsworthy, I think that they can thrive pretty much anywhere they go. But
Yes.
I see
But still, the Kickstarter community will amplify the effect. That's
right.
what the other platforms do not have, and they may accomplish to maybe they need another 3, 4, 5 years. But Kickstarter has been building this like for almost 20 years now, 15 years
Right.
now. So the thing is that when you look at your possibility of success, if you are a project that's gonna be heard in the local TV stations and news, and it's gonna go nationally, then you're gonna make the numbers that you're gonna make. You're
Right.
Cosmos, you run the new Hero Quest campaign in your own website, and you're gonna do the numbers. Arguably, if you were Cosmos and you run the same campaign into Kickstarter, because you're trying to avoid the 5% fee, you would have done way more than the 5% that you gave them. Now, and we can see that also in Cool Mini, right? Cool Mini in 2023 in Kickstarter, they did about 43729 $10.5 to $11.12 million with 4 projects in GameFound so far. In their 4 projects, they have done 4, 5, $6-7 million.
Mm-hmm.
And these numbers reported here are also, if I remember correctly, they do include
Pledge manager,
taxes and shipping, which
yes, that's
yes, which is not included on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
So how many millions are they losing right now?
Yeah,
You go
it's a
figure it out.
curious thing. I'm
Okay.
It makes me feel bad, and part of it's like, well, what about the economy and the inflation and the this and the that? But you've kind of shown that it's not just inflation that is going into this. It's
No,
the
it's
actual
not.
platform makes a bigger difference.
It does.
Um,
Like I do believe that that there are many campaigns that have lost a lot of money on by trying to do GameFound and BackerKit. I
yeah.
understand if you're blocked in Kickstarter because Kickstarter has a policy where you cannot run like 50 projects per
Mhm.
one every month if you are owing others ones. So you want to run another project, then yes, go use another crowdfunding
Mhm.
platform so that you can bypass
Yep.
that rule. I still will argue that that rule makes sense to me. Kickstarter, you have companies like ours that do Kickstarters 3 per year, and I have 2 open. Kulmin had to open, and they did Lucky Duck had, but they're monitoring these companies, and they have a proven track record that wasn't my first 3 projects. I have run 20 campaigns in Kickstarter. I have delivered 17. They allow me to have 2 because I'm here and I expose myself and I cannot hide. So at least I have somebody taking care of the community of their creators. Now, if I owe 5 on Kickstarter and I open one on BackerKit and I open one on GameFound and nobody's checking anything because they just want the backer list and their data, then there is something to be said that this probably is creating more risk and is bringing more negative feelings into the community that we would have avoided if we just stick with Kickstarter. But still, if you have a new project or if you're an established creator, I literally do not understand why you should be going. You would be selecting anything out of these platforms.
Well,
and
you know,
even
one thing
worse, why would you be using them as pledge managers? And that is my next thing that I have been telling to everyone lately, is that it doesn't make sense if you made money to one ecosystem to then for free go take and load ammunition to somebody else to come attack, because these are now a year ago they were not, but today both BackerKit and GameFound are direct competitors of Kickstarter. I have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in Kickstarter building a community, and now I'm gonna pay them to go mess up my investment? No, doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, guys. I will never come pay you to destroy what I have been building for a decade, which is exactly what Kulmin is doing, for example. And they are losing millions, literal millions, because they've done so far on GameFound, as we said, like 4, 5, 6,
$7 million.
7.1, and that includes shipping and taxes. 7.1, with the 12 that they did last year without shipping or taxes and pledge manager in there. So how many millions did they pay GameFound to just go lose everything? Doesn't make sense. That's my point of view here.
One other thing that I've been finding, and this is just with me, you know, being a creator right now with an active project on Kickstarter, I'm not seeing, and we are one of, we're not like the very top project or anything, but we are one of the top projects on Kickstarter now. I'm seeing there's less competition. I remember last time we went to Kickstarter, it just so happened that one of the highest projects ever funded, called The Witcher, was running, and that was, if there was ever a project that was really similar, I would point to Solomon Kane or The Witcher as campaigns that I definitely did not want to go up against when I launched my first campaign. And of course, The Witcher was, you know, had launched, and I was competing direct with them. You know, so when I went to, you know, just to check what day shall I launch and whatnot, I picked my day, and, you know, September 24th.
You selected a good time to run. This is a question of like, hold my beer for a week and let's see what's gonna start next week. Because of Essence-PL, many of us are there, and it has been proven running a Kickstarter campaign while at the same you're at the biggest conventions, Gen Con and Essence-PL. We've done it once in our life. It is dreadful. Unless you have like a Lucky Duck or a big company with multiple employees, which most of the creators are not. Even companies that are doing a lot really cool projects, you're gonna see that they're gonna be like 5, 6 people. When you're manning a booth in a convention, you're gonna have 5, 6 people. So everybody's there who's running the campaign on autopilot, or you're splitting your resources. So there are many people that avoid that. Also, we have first week of November the elections in US. So this is a tricky situation where you're gonna run right now a campaign, and but we already know. Yes,
it's really curious.
Yes, so you hit a good time. Like it was a good time for you to run the campaign when you ran it.
That's awesome. So yeah, you know, I looked at my competitors, and I had various types of games. I had Shem Phillips with Garful Games launched, you know, which those were the guys that did Ezra and Nehemiah. They had another game that was kind of in the same line, but we'll say quite different. and there were a number of games like that. I think Nature launched. There's Heroes of Arcadia. We had a Twisted Cryptids, which is like a, by the Unstable Unicorn Company, I think. But nothing that was like a tabletop, tactical combat dungeon crawl until Unmatched. Unmatched finally launched a couple of weeks in. It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Unmatched.
Yes.
But we had a couple of weeks where we were good. But then if you look at GameFound, there was a campaign that launched that was like Story of Many is what it was called. And it was very like a super duper story driven, very narrative focused. So it had a little bit of difference, but it was a dungeon crawl, 1 to 4 player cooperative, everything like that. And I was so happy that that was on GameFound. It's like, oh, I'm not competing against them, is what it felt like. And I,
that also says something about like the people that are looking for crowdfunding platforms, games to pledge. There isn't a system where, now I can see everything at the same time. Tabletop Analytics tracks only Kickstarter. Tracks only Kickstarter. So there's not a place where you say, okay, what's running on BackerKit? What's running on GameFound? Unless you actually see an ad on your Instagram, on your Facebook, or whatever social media you're using, and to take you into those platforms, you definitely are not competing with them.
Yeah.
Which
one
is
thing,
a good thing for us now that are not huge creators. If the big creators go and lose money in those platforms, then it's good because they are also bringing the competition is lessening for us that are left behind. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like Wild West, on GameFound and Kickstarter right now. It's there's a lot of money going to new creators, percentage wise. Almost a third of the money on Kickstarter in the tabletop category is going to first time creators. So it's an excellent time to start. And I would always recommend a first time creator would start on Kickstarter because it feels like that's just not the same way on GameFound.
You can also build the community. You build your presence. You build. Okay.
Yes.
And we have to understand that Kickstarter has a brand. GameFound is trying to build it, but it's also bringing it and building it into a narrower community between board gamers, right?
Yep.
There's something to be said, like if I know Kickstarter from other campaigns, maybe movies, like Vox Machina. What an awesome campaign to run, right? Start to just create one episode, ended up doing a full season, ended up Amazon Prime buying the rights, now going into the 3rd season. Now that's a story. It's not going to happen in GameFound. If tomorrow they run a board game, doesn't make any sense for them to go to GameFound again, right? So, and we see like Keep the Heroes Out. A very successful project. It's also from Louis Brecht, who's a very dear friend of mine, but he managed to break to the 100 top Board Game Geek projects. He has won multiple awards. Now we're running a digital game. Now we've built a community. We're going to run a digital campaign end of October. How am I going to do that in GameFound of BackerKit? Right? Doesn't make sense. And then tomorrow maybe we do a graphic novel. Maybe we do a movie. The dwarfs it doesn't make sense. That's it.
Yeah. Another thing that seems like quite dissonant to me about GameFound sometimes is the number of followers on a campaign. That is something that, a lot of people listening to this podcast are going to say, I want a lot of followers on my Kickstarter campaign. That will make it look like a big deal. It's very important to have a bunch of followers so that others are, it's kind of like success breeds success in a lot of ways. And so, when I see a project that has 35,000 followers on Kickstarter, I'm like, wow, this is going to explode and make, like $4 to $10 million. But when I see a project that has 35,000 followers on GameFound, sometimes those numbers can feel inflated to me.
They're not inflated, they're just simple fake. I'm going to come out and say it because nobody wants to, but that's the truth. Both BackerKit and GameFound, they just do it's easy for me. I have Hive Pledge Manager. It is one click in my database to add all unique backers in or specific backers from specific companies or projects and add them as followers to a project. It's a click, bop. Kickstarter doesn't do that, of course. You have to actually fight for each and every follower that they click, but those people do it. And I know for first-hand experience where I've seen my Vesuvius Media BackerKit account, being a follower to 3 projects that I didn't even know that they were running in BackerKit. And then I realized, oh, I'm following them. Why?
Weird.
So, yes, we can inflate projects. It's very easy. Okay? These are not real numbers. I understand that we're living in an era where you have to actually do data mining. You can see, like, when you have 50,000 followers and then you have 5,000 backers.
Mhm.
What happened here? Nothing happened here.
Yeah. I don't, I guess I wouldn't take it as far, just, this is my anecdotal data
Mhm.
as that I'm sure is yours. I feel like there are, so what GameFound does is they have various, they have pretty well trafficked blog posts. They do a pretty good job getting that information out there. They have an email list that they send,
Mhm.
to, and they pick very particular projects. They have, a banner that appears, like if I click, the above and below haunted campaign, they're actually advertising a new expansion of Harakiri, or whatever. And if I reload the page, it's now the Ultimate Wild West Adventure. So they have banners on other campaigns that are where they're doing some advertising. But I generally find that the big campaigns that get lots and lots of followers are the ones that they send, that they include either in a blog post or in an email. And where it's like, these 4 projects are coming in Q4 or whatever, and those are the ones that get a ton of followers. And I think they probably cherry pick the ones they think can do the best, and then they push those with advertising,
And
which
it's good to do. They're trying
I
to
think
build
that
a
that's what
platform.
one thing that gets a lot of followers. But the problem is that when you don't engage followers, that you kind of turn cold leads into raving fans. That's the whole
The
goal with
same thing
email
where
marketing.
you
And
can go now buy Instagram followers. You can
Mhm.
go buy YouTube likes to your
Yeah.
YouTube videos, right? There is a price, and you get 50,000 Philippine accounts following your Facebook page.
Right.
This doesn't translate.
Yeah.
And
And
now we're living in an era where people understand that number of followers doesn't mean anything.
right. And that's
Do
it.
you
It
have the
seems like
numbers?
it
Did you
means
convert? Do you
more
have
on
a good
Kickstarter.
product?
Like
Yeah, Kickstarter doesn't give you any way to do that.
right.
So in order to follow in Kickstarter, you have to create an account in Kickstarter and click the button follow.
Yeah.
So that will not, but you can't fake that.
Right. So, I just, it's just an observation, but I do think, like, for example, Chip Theory Games has a campaign right now for Cloudspire. They
Hmm.
have what they themselves have spoken of in other podcasts I've listened to as an almost cult-like following of their fans. Chip Theory
But
Games fans. I'm a Chip Theory Games fan. I own Cloudspire. And I am trying so hard not to back this campaign because it's the final campaign. It's like I could get everything. I could have this massive box. And my wife is not a huge fan of Cloudspire. It's hard to get to the table for us. It takes a long time to set up and all that. But if you look at their followers to backer numbers, 9.6 thousand followers, 3,000 backers, that is a realistic number to me. That's actually a really good number to me. They have
it,
3,000 backers and 9,600 followers. Maybe they didn't get pushed. I don't know, but they had a very good conversion rate there. So I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think that the companies that build serious loyalty, like you're saying, I think Chip Theory Games is one of those. I actually think Cool Mini or Not is not one of those campaign or companies. They have really, really great products, and that's why people back them.
well,
Um,
Cloudspire did 4.4K backers in 2018 in Kickstarter. They did 5.6K backers in 2020 in Kickstarter. And now they're at 3,000 backers,
yeah.
and they're gonna finish probably, it looks like way less than that.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
that's how, look, and they're definitely not, they have huge following and set up in Kickstarter, and they are utilizing none of this
Mhm.
when they are here. Have they run another campaign? They have run, this is Pledge Manager. Pledge Manager.
Mhm. I think they ran Roth, and I think they ran they definitely ran Elder Scrolls. That made like just $4.5 million. I know because I backed that one all in. $400 free shipping.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so it is curious, you know. I'm torn because I want to see GameFound be successful. And you know, BackerKit for that matter too. I think that BackerKit we haven't really talked about very much, and that's
it's good to have competition.
mhm.
I have to say that because of GameFound and BackerKit doing what they're doing, finally Kickstarter is giving us things. They gave us a pre-campaign landing page. Yeah. They gave us late pledging. Yeah.
They fixed their broken story editor finally.
Yes. So competition is always good for any industry. Okay, it keeps things moving and growing, but I just want to make sure that people are reading their numbers correctly, and they're making the right choice for them, and not because it's easy to misrepresent numbers and facts. Very easy, especially if you don't break them down. Understand your chances and understand where you're going. To me, right now, neither GameFound nor BackerKit have proven to be a good fit for first-time creators that have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
Okay, like so far. Now, if you're an established creator and you have an established community, to me, I can see like Cool Mini. I don't think that they're happy with their choice right now. At least mathematically speaking, we see that they're losing money. But maybe an established creator can choose a different, because then they know they're gonna bring the community and they have better tools. Maybe the platform of Kickstarter or of GameFound or BackerKit. But I still have to. For now, I don't see the organic traffic that I would have expected from any of these platforms to justify moving so far there. Maybe they build it. Maybe in 3, 4, 5 years from now, they will have something decent. We'll see. We're going to be around. I don't plan to. So we'll be having this state of crowdfunding podcast and figuring out more numbers as they grow.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the first campaigns that saw that there was a pre-campaign landing page. When I actually, you know, started working on Kickstarter, I noticed in the promotion tab that you know, the pre-launch, when I was able to launch before the project was approved, and it showed it had this huge, it was like I accidentally made it to the story editor. It's like, what is this, you know? And so they just released the feature, and I was really fortunate to be able to use that. But it does definitely seem like Kickstarter has a fire lit under their tails to get to work, and that is
which again
definitely a good
good
thing
for the community, right? It makes sense.
Absolutely. And I do think that GameFound has staying power. I think that, you know, BackerKit's in big trouble if they don't get their if their crowdfunding doesn't take off. Then they're a pledge manager that is not, you know, that GameFound is trying to phase out other pledge managers, and Kickstarter now with their late pledge and pledge management and trying to take over shipping and everything like that. Like, I think that BackerKit is in big trouble.
First, yes, if the way things look, like if BackerKit was doing a decent enough job with their platform, GameFund wouldn't have been created, right?
Yeah.
And an argument can be made if GameFund was doing a good enough job, then Hive would not have been created. So, that's the state. And the way things happen right now, GameFund has a lot of money backing it, so they have enough ground to keep on fighting. BackerKit is gonna feel the heat really soon, and as soon as the pledge manager of Kickstarter launches, both of the platforms we're gonna see a drop into their non-organic traffic. So those numbers are gonna change in the future, and they will have to fight for organic. And then it's gonna be a whole different, because right now Kickstarter doesn't have a pledge manager solution, so the conversation is we have to use one who looks like it's the best, who spends more money, who has tomorrow they will have, and they will have to try to pull you out of Kickstarter. So more than half of the creators, I would argue 60-70%, especially the new ones, they will not want to go let another platform for no apparent reason. They're good in Kickstarter, they're going to stay there. The established creators will have to value the extra services that its platform provides. Okay. And I think that BackerKit will lose the battle immediately. GameFound, because of branding, they're going to stay a little bit and fight for it. Eventually, if things don't change radically, I don't think that the battle will be lost. Just like we have Indiegogo, GameFound is going to end up being another Indiegogo.
Yeah. Wow, what a crazy way to conclude, If and we'll do this again next year and see what
Yes,
how we
definitely.
feel, and
It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna be monitoring it. It's also to we're gonna be here. Like it affects us directly, right?
yeah,
As
I can
for the
see.
creators, if the industry starts being divided,
Yep.
it goes back to the Mozilla and Internet Explorer and Netscape Navigator eras, where you had to scramble and work with every platform because we were trying to reach our audience. Our job as
Yes.
creators is to reach our audience, and if those platforms are fighting for that attention, it increases the CPC, it increases our. We are gonna hurt at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, so Konstantinos, before we go, how can people get in contact with you? I know you run a pledge manager that I'm a huge advocate for.
Yeah.
How can
I don't want
people
to call it
find?
pledge manager. We have to find a different way because we're way more than a pledge manager.
Yeah.
Way more. So they can always go to Hive and click the contact us. They can even book a call and we can set up a call and talk. We can discuss with them before they even start thinking about running the Kickstarter campaign. We can help them out in all the phases. We have a cultural point of view that is different than any other service out there. We do not view people as a project. We view them as a company. So we see that you're going to be on our platform using our tools for 2.5 years at the very best, probably more, because that's what these tools are. We don't do just pledge managing. We have so many other like customer support tickets, mechanism embedded, fulfillment tools. We help you with fulfillment. We collaborate. We help you with consolidating freight from China. We are a group of creators. Everybody that you see in Hive, we work together, trying to minimize our costs and maximize our success. That's how we work. So even just to reaching out and asking for a fair and decent opinion with no strings attached, we're here to help you out. You can find us in all conventions that are being done around the year. We pretty much are there. Whether you want Gamma, Origins, Gen Con, SN, PAX Unplugged, you're going to find us. So come talk to us. Just ask a question. We're going to be happy to help you out.
Awesome. Run hiveinteractive.net is where you go. And so thank you so much, Konstantinos. Really appreciate your time. And let's have Robot Richard send us on out.
Yes.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. For more resources, articles, and to listen to past podcasts, please visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com. And if you have a crowdfunding question, we also have a page on our site where you can send a message directly to us. Please visit crowdfundingnerds.com/question. And if your question is a great question, we may include it in a future podcast. Thank you all again for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week. Stay nerdy.